Can we now call on Reverend Tweed to give the blessing, please?
If we can have your attention for a moment, let us pause as we bow our heads. Gracious God, we pause to give you thanks for the gift of another opportunity to assemble on this Labor Day. In a world, oh God, where labor continues to face challenges on every side, contracting labor markets, challenges in the workplace, and yet we gather in solidarity to declare that we will continue to stand in unity to fight for justice in the workplace, equal pay for equal days' work, fair and safe working conditions. And so we thank you on this day, oh God, where we join symbolically with those around the globe who declare that labor has dignity. Pray that you'll bless every union that is part of this gathering. Bless every worker, whether they're unionized or not. And even now, oh God, we cannot but pause and ask your prayers, ask our prayers on behalf of our brothers and sisters in the Bahamas and those that are in the path of Hurricane Dorian. Pray, oh God, that you'll surround them with safety, cover them, oh God, that there might be minimal damage. Now, oh God, as we prepare to march, we march because we march on the side of justice. We march because we march on the side of right. We march because we march on the shoulders of those that stood in places when no one else would stand, that stood in places when it was unpopular to stand. And yet we are heirs of a tremendous legacy of people who stood against adversity and broke down inequality and racism and injustice in the workplace. And we march because we affirm that the battle is not over. So be with us as we go through this day. Walk with us as we go through this day. Bless us, oh God, in Jesus' name. And God's people said, amen.
Yes, we're going to thank Brother Reverend Nicholas Tweed for that great blessing. At this time, we're asking that everybody pause for a moment of silence of all our people who is going on before us, and especially remember Brother Leroy Simmons. So at this time, we want to give a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Labor Day to all of you. Let me apologize for being a few minutes late and get started, but you don't understand why we are just a couple of minutes late. Why we are just a couple minutes late. In 1987, the BIU moved from its headquarters building into this building right here in front of us back in 1987, some 32 years ago. And understanding that was Brother Archibald Simmons' dream to come in this building, be it as it may, you will see two mirrors to the right of me. You will see Dr. Gordon and you'll see Dr. Barbara Bull. There is another blank space between Dr. Gordon and Dr. Bull. That was supposed to be for Brother Ottie's picture. Ottie says, Brother Chris, Executive Board, you don't have my permission to put my face on that wall. Okay, we got it. Just know that when the building was built back in 1987, the main hall is called Dr. Gordon Hall. About 5 to 7 years ago, we renamed the multi-purpose room Sweden Ball Hall. What the Executive Board and General Council decided that we need to do something to honor Archibald Simmons. So what you'll see in front of you now, if you look up here, you'll see the Bermuda Industrial Union headquarters, Archibald Simmons building. And we really can get his permission for that. We just done it. And I want him to see get allowed to go up there and try to take it down. Adi, sir, I think we owe you a great debt of gratitude, sir. Thank you, Father Adi.
Good day. Miss Minister, yeah, you lead us. Come on up. Our Minister, Ms. Levita Fogo.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, workers. In 2018, I stood before you and addressed you as the acting minister responsible for labor. Today, I am here as the minister responsible for labor, community affairs, and sports. And I'm extremely pleased to be delivering this message on behalf of my ministry and the government of Bermuda. As minister responsible for labor, I have had the privilege of working for and alongside the workers of Bermuda and have had incredible opportunity to witness on many occasions the dedication and tireless commitment of those I have encountered. So on this, the 38th anniversary of Labor Day, I honor you for your contribution to this society and celebrate your strength and perseverance in times of both prosperity and scarcity. As we recall Labor Day movement of the past and look towards ensuring that the current Labor Day movement embodies the spirit, pride, and dedication of our workers, I want to ensure that the people behind this movement, the workers, you, are all commemorated for your invaluable service to your places of employment, to your customers, to your patients, to your students, to your colleagues, and to this country. This year's Labor Day theme is social justice, decent work for all workers. And according to the ILO, decent work involves opportunities for work that are productive and deliver a fair income, security in the workplace, social protection for families, better prospects for personal development, and social integration, freedom for people to express their concerns, to organize and participate in decisions that affect their lives, and equality of opportunity and treatment for all women and men. Guy Ryder, the Director General of the ILO, once said, when these keys turn together, when governments, employers, and workers are able to come together, doors open and social justice advances. To realize decent work for all workers, this government, the unions, and the employers, the three keys of social justice, have worked tirelessly during the past year to advance initiatives that will see social justice materialize within the workplace. The recommended increase in maternity leave to 13 weeks, and the recommended establishment of paternity leave. This recognized that mothers and fathers play an integral and crucial role in the development of children. The creation of a wage commission tasked with proposing a minimum wage, a living wage that will ensure all workers have access to a fair wage. Wholesale amendments of the Employment Act and the labor legislation to ensure the greatest possibility for harmonious labor relations between employers, trade unions, and workers, and to clearly outline the rights and obligations of all persons engaged in the world of work. A review of various gratuity schemes across the island. The recommendation of a statutory workplace policy, harassment policy to promote a safe and friendly working environment for all workers, irrespective of race, place of origin, color, sex, marital status, disabilities, religious beliefs, political opinions, sexual orientation. The increase to the retirement age to afford workers and their employers the opportunities to continue their employment, the offering of a national technical vocational training awards, technical and vocational education and training awards, as well as Bermuda College scholarships designed to cover tuition and expenses to help equip the Bermuda's future labor workforce for the world of work. And partnering with Take 5 Limited to provide an internationally recognized professional certification from the American Hotel and Lodging Educational Institute for the graduates of the Restaurant Server program. These are just some things that this government is trying to do to ensure that workers get treated the way that they are supposed to be treated. The government stands firm in its commitment to the future labor force, that it will ensure education, training systems, scholarships, and opportunities, and it will ensure that our workers get the requisite skill set and the type of work environment that is so crucial to ensure decent work. Nelson Mandela said, "Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice." That's why this government stands firm in its commitment to the workers of this country, that all will have access to a fair and decent wage. Able-bodied workers will be able to remain within the workforce longer, and service workers will receive commensurate compensation for the services they provide. Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is the precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainability development, and building good governance. That was a quote from Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary General. This government is committed to the workers of this country. The structural barriers of gender inequality within the workplace will be tackled. Bullying and harassment will be tackled, and all will be afforded equal treatment, irrespective of their sex and all of the other qualities I just mentioned, marital status, political affiliations, you name it. Social dialogue and tripartism are the bedrock of social justice and decent work for workers. Unions and employers, our workers are depending on us to work together and keep at the forefront the human-centered agenda that promotes equality, fairness, respect, and dignity for all workers. Our workers are depending on us, and we will work together to get it done. History has proven that the challenges we face can only be overcome by working together. The three keys of social justice must be employed to ensure that while we face these challenges, we remain committed to working together so that heroes behind this movement, the selfless and committed workers of this country, will benefit from the realization of decent work for all workers. Hip hip to the workers of this country.
Thank you, Minister. Listen, we can do better than that here. Let's give a nice big round of applause for our Minister, Sister Levita Fogo. Thank you. We'd like to call on the president of the BPSU, Brother Jason Hayward.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. First and foremost, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today and joining in the Labor Day celebration. This celebration is about each and every one of you and the contribution you make to society through your work. But this day emanated from struggle. We are now celebrating our 38th Labor Day celebration. But Labor Day was only granted after our epic stand for justice in 1981. A stand that predates me. But let's not forget and take today for granted. Today is a result of the fight that others put in. And we have to continue that fight. Because workers are not just given justice. What I want to say to each and every worker is that I genuinely appreciate your contribution. Despite your wages not going up at the rate that they're supposed to go up, you still show up to work and are productive. Despite the lack of resources in your workplace, you still show up to work and are productive. Despite having to deal with bullying, harassment, and discrimination, you still show up to work and are productive. So for that, you should be greatly commended. Brothers and sisters, we saw mass mobilization of individuals in this country on Saturday. And what Saturday showed me was that we have to be absolutely proud of who we are as individuals. So as a young Christian man who has given his heart to the Lord Jesus Christ, who is my personal Savior, my Lord has taught me tolerance. My Lord has taught me empathy. And it's that empathy that I have for individuals that makes me a social justice warrior. See, we heard this weekend this phrase further on, to each his own. But that phrase derives from to each their own. And it doesn't end at to each their own. It's to each the earn is due. Because it emanated from a justice phrase, not a difference of opinion phrase. Brothers and sisters, social justice and decent work are fitting. But the only institution that has ensured decent work worldwide is the labor unions. A strong labor movement brings decent work and better conditions for all. And let me just draw an example from Saturday. Eyewitness, Bank of Butterfield, become the lead sponsor of the parade. This has nothing to do with the parade. It has all to do with Butterfield sponsorship. They had the nerve, the audacity, the goal,
the unmitigated goal.
The unmitigated goal. Thank you, brother. To be the lead sponsor for a public event. When a few months ago, employees walked in their offices, sat to their desks, and didn't know whether or not they'll be dismissed. Will you get apparatus side, you have ensured your workers that you care for them. I also saw my brother Sybil on Front Street. Sybil is known as the Queen of Bermuda. And I heard people come across, I love you, Sybil. But let me tell you something. When my brother Mark enters back in the workplace and his rights are being eroded, the only letters that come at that time is BPSU. It's a reality. Support is real coming from the labor movement. We have worked hard to reduce bullying, harassment, and discrimination from our LGBTQI community in the workplace. We are continuously trying to challenge norms. We are on the forefront of fighting injustice against our migrant workers in this country. That don't sit well with many in society, but the reality is they are workers too. And they should not be subjected to precarious work, long working hours, being undercut in their pay when they come under auspices of one contract, but come to Bermuda and are paid a certain amount of money. No overtime pay. And so this week we will have a migrant worker stakeholder meeting at the BPSU so that we can put together a plan in terms of how we can support our migrant workers in this country. But we also have to talk about the Bermudian worker. We can't hide behind the statistics that show that Bermudian employment is down and non-Bermudian employment is up. That is not a positive statistic. We have to address that issue. And as the current chairman of the National Training Board, it is part and parcel of my responsibility to ensure that we have programs in place that prepares our people for the world of work, that connects people with jobs, that's ensure that we have the proper training in place for individuals. Brothers and sisters, we're not going to make any real meaningful progress unless all in the country are rowing in the same direction. I saw a number of corporate organizations speaking about diversity and inclusion. But we still struggle for pay equity amongst men and women in the same workplaces. We still struggle with pay equity between Bermudians and non-Bermudians. We still struggle with pay equity between blacks and whites in the same institutions that talk about diversity and inclusion. Let's not have one foot in and one foot out. Brothers and sisters, let's not be fooled as to what justice actually is. See, when I think of social justice, what comes to my mind is indignation. The anger that I get when I see injustice and inequality. But they say, as a Christian, you shouldn't possess anger. But guess what? It's justified when it's righteous indignation. And so, brothers and sisters, your unions will continually stand for you. And we need you to continually stand with your unions. 3 cheers for labor. Hip hip. Hip hip. Labor.
Thank you, Brother Jason from the BPSU. Brothers and sisters, at this time I'd like to call on the President, Brother Donald Loddymore from the ESTUC, the Electrical Supply and Trade Union. Brother Donald.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. I actually wear 2 hats today. The brand new president of the Bermuda Trade Union Congress. So I have a big job to follow in Brother Jason and Brother Ferber's shoes. So good morning. So on behalf of my members of the Electricity Supply Trade Union, those of you know most of us are out there at Belco. So we've been in the news a little bit lately. All right. On behalf of the TUC members and affiliates, I greet you here in attendance, as well as all that are listening in on the airwaves. I would like to reflect on the importance of Labor Day. To me, it was my first labor experience was when my father held my hand watching the speakers of the day, Brother Artie and others. And I was holding his hand as a child, because part of our duty as parents is to make sure our children are exposed to the meaningful things that will guide them through their life. And the trade unions, whether it's the teachers union for my mother, when you talk about single mothers raising young men, there's a way that her union supported her to make sure that I can stand her in front of you today. Our sister union, the Bermuda Union of Teachers, celebrated 100 years of service to their community. So we need to give them a round of applause this morning. Brother James is also the first vice president of the Trade Union Congress. So you'll be seeing and hearing from him even more so. But we cannot forget Friday evening when Brother Dr. Charles brought the word. Okay? He let us know what needs to happen, whether it's our school system or us as trade unionists. And I thank him for that. Those type of words instilled passion in the younger ones of us. Because somewhere down the line, we want to be recognized for the hard work we do.
My father is totally shoot. Dr. Gordon responsible for this school. Tell me what the hell.
So, as we move forward, we have to look at what we're doing as trade unionists. Unfortunately, in recent history, we've had to focus on battles that we thought were already won. We've had to renew our safety agenda, renew our equity in the workplace agenda. There's no reason that our teachers, police, prison officers are dealing with mold, asbestos, and other hazards that have long been established to be harmful to those of us in the workplace. So we need to make sure that we now revisit how we tackle safety in the workplace, which is a hallmark of the trade union movement. We need to make sure that those brothers and sisters don't have to go to court to get justice for what is already established as a right to be protected under our legislation. It's things like this that we are allocating time to that is stopping us from being progressive. We have to keep going back over the same road. But we have 3 areas that I know we need to focus on. We know we have an aging population, and we know healthcare is on the rise. Many of us here need to focus on how are we getting our parents, our family members, adequate healthcare coverage. I know the government has plans to work on it, but in the meantime, why don't we work on it? Why don't we make sure that our seniors get access to the right healthcare? Why don't we, as unions, pressure the insurance companies to make sure they are given affordable healthcare coverage under what we have now until the government arrives at their decisions? We also have just mentioned how our equity in the workplace is being diminished, how our revenue is being changed, our compensation is being changed. But one thing I see today is a bunch of entrepreneurs, young people taking a stance and say, you know what, I don't have to just work for somebody else, I can work for myself and for my community. So if we're going to decide as 9,000 union workers, why don't we support each other? And we change how the money in this country is spent. I am ensured that the person that works on my bike is a union member. The person who puts up the tents for when I have a function is a union member. Not just mine, but other affiliates as well. There are enough people that have talent and invested the time to bring us something different that we don't have to shop in town every day. Sometimes you might have to shop at the house. You might have to make a little bit of sacrifice so that our people can have money circulate in our community longer and make sure that we support each other. And one of the final groups we need to make sure of is our youth. We can't wait for the education system. We need to support our teachers. We need to get out and do bits and pieces ourselves. If it means you going in a classroom and helping someone to read, if it means you being a mentor, if it means taking them around your job to show them what a trade unionist does on a day-to-day job site, make sure that our youth know what it's like to see us in the workplace and be the positive examples. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you, Brother Lattimore. Yes. Brothers and sisters, before we call on the BUT, Bermuda Union of Teachers, Brother Shannon is the president, we ask that the banners that everyone has down, please put them up and get them ready for our march. We also want to recognize that the BUEI will be providing a tram for our seniors to be led to the front of the parade, so fear not, we have you covered this year. Brother Shannon.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I know it's already been mentioned, but I must speak of Brother Leroy. Because typically every year before I start, or before he starts, we stand on the side and we say a little things to each other before we get going. So I'd like to just pause. I know we've done it already, but just to pause for the memory of our dear Brother Leroy, who has passed away. Thank you. Brothers and sisters, one of the most important pieces of any democracy is the ability to gather and the ability to ask questions. The Bermuda Union of Teachers has been gathering and has been asking questions for over now 100 years. I don't think they heard that. 100 years. I think of our sister organizations around the world. In Zimbabwe, there are soldiers placed in schools. And if you as a teacher don't play by the correct rule book, you go missing. They have 2,000 plus teachers who they can't account for. I think of our brothers and sisters in Bahrain, who last year they gave early retirements. They are not hiring any more Bahrainian teachers. There are many who have gone to school to be educators, but the government of Bahrain is not hiring them. They hire all expat teachers. The minority of the workforce in Bahrain is expat. Sorry, the minority is Bahrainian. They don't want them to ask questions. I have a friend, she is the vice president of the Bahrainian Teachers Union. She gathered with her president, with the members, the next morning, 5 o'clock, the door was busted down. She was locked up for 6 years. No trial, no jury, no nothing. The president was locked up for 9 years, just because they gathered and they asked questions. Brothers and sisters, democracy is a beautiful thing. The right to gather, the right to speak, the right to express your mind, the right to ask questions is something that we must hold dear and protect. I think of our brothers and sisters in the island of Fiji, who, when they meet, the police routinely knock on their door, take their cell phones, take their computers. They are not allowed to meet. They have been classified as essential services, something that goes against the ILO. Because they are now classified as essential services, they cannot meet, they cannot strike. Here's a letter. Your members are employees of education, and you provide essential services to children. To report to a meeting during any work hours is an unfair industrial practice, and it also does not place education of children first. The Labor Relations Act 1975, which governs the actions of all unions and employers, states that an unfair industrial practice takes place if a workman employed in an essential industry takes part in any strike or irregular industrial action short of a strike. Let me say that again. A workman employed in an essential industry takes place in any action. But brothers and sisters, this was not a letter delivered to the teachers of Fiji. This was a letter delivered to us. We are not essential servants. We are not. Yes, we provide an essential service, but we are not an essential service. We don't fall under that category. So brothers and sisters, I dare you, when you get letters who misquote ILO, challenge it, question it, don't fall for it. I'd like to thank all of those who stood before us. I saw Sister Douglas somewhere. I'd like to thank all, thank you. I'd like to thank all of the BUT leaders. I'd like to thank all of the BUT executive, but most of all, I'd like to thank our BUT members. Last year was a challenging year for us. It was a challenging year. We are hoping that moving forward, things will be much better. But I'd like to tell you one thing. Sometimes in class, you only notice the child who says, "Oh!" And you turn around and you say to that child, "Stop making all that noise." But you miss the person that stood on that child's foot. Or you miss the person that quickly punched that child and that person tends to get away. All I'm saying, Bermuda, is sometimes when people say, "Oh," they didn't just make it up. So in closing, everyone, remember unions, remember Labor Day is a beautiful thing. Remember the right to gather, the right to question, it's a beautiful thing. The democracy that we have, it's a beautiful thing. So on this Labor Day, remember that. Remember those who have gone on before us, and I pray that we all will have a wonderful Labor Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shannon. At this time, I'd like to call on Sister Tony. Now, normally she uses the mic for different other reasons, but this time she's able to speak. Sister Tony.
Thank you so much. I don't feel no waste time. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me this road would be easy, but I don't believe he's brought you and me this far to leave me. Greetings, brothers and sisters. It is indeed an honor to bring Labor Day greetings on behalf of the Bermuda Entertainment Union. My name, thank you, my name is Toni Marie Robinson. Most of you know me as a vocalist, and if you don't, just ask somebody. I also serve as the Assistant Treasurer of the BEU, where my social justice platform is to fulfill the mission of the BEU, to promote, protect, prepare, and preserve entertainers, promoters, technicians, and support staff, as well as those who are legally authorized to visit and execute such duties in Bermuda. This has been a difficult year within the BEU as we mourn the passing of our president, Brother Leroy Simmons, who began transforming our union to one of inclusion for all working performing artists, and their support staff. And let me just say thank you for the moments of silence in his honor. This year, and in years gone past, we have actively supported the artistic youth of our country. They are our succession plan, and all of us should ensure that a youth component is active within our work. In Bermuda, there are only four scholarships in the arts, and none of them are full scholarships to attend university. As we begin on our union reform, it is a pleasure to note that we provided 2 young men with scholarships for artistic endeavors. Miles Smith, an 18-year-old dancer, choreographer, producer, director, and vocalist, produced his first production at Ruth Seton James Auditorium called Diversity in Fine Arts, and was awarded a scholarship to travel with Up With People. And 17-year-old Zaire Adams was awarded a scholarship to work as a theater technician in the National Black Theater Festival in North Carolina, working on 4 different shows in 7 days. Yes. His dream is to become a technical theater director. We pray that in his journey, there will be a place for him at Ruth Seton James Center for Performing Arts, Bermuda's only performing arts center. This marks a new beginning in our journey to reform, in that the union is truly becoming one that embraces all artists and is pointedly educating our youth on the importance of the union and their entitlement of decent work for decent pay. I will end with this. Entertainment. I ask that you consider making your social justice charge this year one of supporting arts as entertainment business and not charitable labor, by considering the work of an artist, for it takes more than just our talent for us to survive. Decent work for decent pay. Happy Labor Day.
Thank you, Sister Tony. Brothers and sisters, Brother Chris Trumpet, our leader.
Judge, again, brothers and sisters, happy Labor Day. Certainly, the social agenda and a decent work for all workers. I felt compelled to just say just a couple of words today, because I know the naysayers are going to be saying, well, where is the BIU president? Particularly when we look at the employment of Bermudians versus non-Bermudians. Because everyone knows the BIU by now, that if this was the UPP government or the LBA government, the BIU would be making a public statement. So as I said to the Premier yesterday, the BIU is going to be consistent. So we are very concerned about the employment numbers for 2018, and I'm glad to hear Brother Jason mention it, but certainly when we look at a social agenda and decent work for all, I certainly hope the government will take a serious look at that and make sure that does not continue to happen. Happy Labor Day to all of you, and let's enjoy the rest of the even though we got a shower of blessings right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Chris. Mr. Premier, are you ready?
Good morning, brothers and sisters in labor. Good morning. As the president said, there is a shower of blessing, and I want to acknowledge everyone who is here during this shower of blessing. But what I want to say is, and I'm going to keep my remarks as brief as possible, is that someone once said, labor cannot stand still. It must not retreat. It must go on, or it will go under. This is why Labor Day is important for Bermuda, because it brings us together to remember the struggle which has been all too real for so many of us. It allows us to thank those who've gone before and work hard. It allows us to thank those who've gone before us and worked hard to make sure workers' rights were put in place. And it's an opportunity to celebrate our successes. And there have been many. The government that I lead is a labor government. And over the years, our leaders have stood shoulder to shoulder with workers, demanding that our voices be heard, fighting for rights and fairness in the workplace. Marching, negotiating, and advocating on behalf of workers is part of our DNA. However, brothers and sisters, many think the work of unions is behind us. We cannot rest on the successes of the past when some of our brothers and sisters are still struggling for fair and decent working conditions. Far too many aren't receiving a decent and livable wage for the hours that they work. That is why this government will make the living wage a reality. And that is why this government is working in concert with our unions to amend our labor laws to ensure that the right to organize is strengthened. This weekend, there was another march through some of these same streets. The themes were not new. Words like equality and freedom were used in support of that cause. The Constitution of Bermuda guarantees that all people are entitled to freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and freedom of assembly. Those are hard-fought rights. It should not be lost on anyone who marched on Saturday that today's march is what made Saturday possible. So for those people who are far more accustomed to criticizing marchers and marches for telling union workers to go back to work, and who have never pounded the pavement in support of equality before Saturday, you are welcome. Family, a few minutes ago, I said that labor cannot stand still. It is my personal view that collectively we must move labor away from fighting purely for workers' rights to promoting an ownership society where workers own more and instead of just being consumers of services, become the owners of those services. Because if we can organize and use the power of labor for collective bargaining, then surely we can organize to promote workers owning more, therefore being able to have greater economic power inside of the broader economy. Yesterday at a community event, a lady stopped me and said, "We need our own supermarket." I acknowledged her sentiment, but then I said, no, we do not necessarily need our own supermarket, but we need a collective solution to provide lower cost foods and essentials that we own. Family, and this is important, whether the supermarket or another collective solution, they both accomplish the same goal: lower cost goods with profits being retained by workers who will be the owners. The difference is, and I am being a little controversial here, that one is a 1980s solution to a 2019 problem. Family, labor cannot stand still, and collectively, we must evolve our thinking to solve today's problems with solutions fit for now and not for the past. So when you hear your government pushing technology, when you see computer labs and upgraded internet, and for the first time having a technology curriculum in our schools, when you see coding boot camps for mature students sponsored by the government, it is to give our people the tools to build the solutions of the future that will empower the next generation. Brothers and sisters, let me close with this. We chant, united we stand, divided we fall. For it to really matter, it must mean something. For those of us who support labor, for those of us who understand labor, and for those of us who want to ensure that labor has a seat at the table, we must remember that there is far more that unites us than divides us. The government that I lead will continue to work in good faith with our union partners, not only for better wages and benefits, but for better accountability at all levels, while actively promoting a culture of collective ownership in Bermuda. The PLP is the government because of all of you, and collectively, all of us will deliver for the people who are looking to us for leadership and a better future for our families. But we will only do it. We will only do it if we remain united. United we stand. Thank you and happy Labor Day.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Let's put your hands together for Bermuda's Premier. Thank you. Listen, brothers and sisters, I must make this announcement. While we do have the train from the BUI for our seniors, it is full. So I'm asking anybody who has transportation and enough to take additional seniors in their own private vehicles, we will greatly appreciate it. For those of us who have vehicles, please park here just to my immediate left and try to take what our seniors is left. Thank you. Can we now all form up behind our banners, please?